synopsis, the backstory to the story I just read. Boo Earns. Have you guys seen this new daylight UFO over the Temple Mount? Have you seen this one yet? There were other videos. There was about 2 or 3 of them a few months back that came out, or a couple months back, that Jaime Maussan of Mexico, the famous legendary Jaime Maussan, who was recently badmouthed on the AZ UFO show, and that's his platform. That's the gimmick, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And I think he might be kind of right about this, because there was some investigation into Jaime Maussan and his analysis of data and stuff like that. And it's turning up that he's not as credible as we may think he is, as reported from internals of MUFON. Anyway, the Temple Mount videos, the thing kind of, there's like a light hovering over the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. And there's a huge flash, and then all of a sudden this thing flies straight up into the air in like at a matter of a split second. It's going straight up into the sky. And then there was another one apparently that came out from a different vantage point, from apparently different people filming the event. And in my personal initial reaction was, this is definitely CGI. It just doesn't look real to me. And most people felt the same way about it. But now there's this new daylight UFO over the Temple Mount, and again, the CGI probability is high. I got this from unknowncountry.com, because I subscribe to Whitley Strieber's newsletter, and I get that from him. And it says here on Tuesday, March 29, 2011, this story was printed, and despite the realistic background noises and the seeming difficulty the videographer has, this could easily be a CGI effect. It could be created in 10 minutes using any number of programs. The Temple Mount is under constant observation by many eyes, so perhaps more witnesses and videos will show up to support this one, if it is real. Look at it yourself. It does look like CGI. I mean, it's the same sort of video as the other Dome of the Rock videos, but it's in the daylight, and I think it's a little bit closer. But again, my initial reaction was a boo earns. And just to recap what I've just said here, Open Minds, they did a quick story on this too. They were stating that Discovery News feels that the Jerusalem UFO video case has been closed, and that this guy Ian O'Neill from Discovery News, space producer, he says the footage shows the light drop and seemingly hover just above the shrine. After a few moments and a brief flash of a strobe, the light took off, disappearing into the night sky, end quote. That's what I just said. Now, it says here, just days ago, the Mutual UFO Networks, this has been a couple weeks ago, released a statement with their findings regarding the Jerusalem UFO video case. And their chief video and photo analysis, Mark D'Antonio, stated, quote, I firmly believe that the UFO was not real for many reasons. This video and the other Jerusalem UFO videos are, in my opinion, hoaxes, end quote. This case has been highly controversial since the first video emerged in January 2011, and is likely to remain so. So you can pretty much close the book on the Jerusalem UFOs. If you want to dog-ear the page for posterity, go for it, but I don't think it'll go anywhere. There's been some UFOs sighted over Krakow, Poland. This is from Open Minds as well. It says here, the second largest city in Poland, Krakow, has had several multiple witness UFO sightings in the last few weeks, according to the Polish UFO site infra.org.pl, or infra. The sightings took place on the 8th and the 9th of March 2011 and involved large disc-shaped objects. Now, the first sighting was in the town of Leszanka, 9 miles south of Krakow, on March 8th. And at about 7:20 p.m., there was a witness driving home with his daughter when he noticed a large disc-shaped object hovering overhead. Of course, I mean, like anyone, he stopped to take a closer look, and he described the object as being about 50 feet in diameter and only about 100 to 150 feet off the ground. It had white lights around its rim, and this thing, I guess, had like green and red lights on the bottom and was slowly rotating around its axis. Then there was a second sighting that took place at 9:25 p.m., and again, on their way to Krakow, 2 women noticed a bright light. And at first, they thought it was like a small plane from the nearby Belize airport. or Ballas Airport. However, when they passed directly underneath it, they noticed it was a large metallic disc with red lights along its rim. And after passing under the object, they saw it again to their left. The witnesses were unsure if this was another similar object or the same one. So then the next day, like 7 miles west of Krakow, in Kripspinau, a woman and her children saw a large disc-shaped object from their vehicle. And the object had a row of white lights resembling light bulbs, and it stopped in midair for a moment and then took off to the north. Then it was seen again 10 minutes later over Krakow, and that witness said that there was like a sound similar to a helicopter there. But when she looked at the source, it was a dark object with a ring of white lights around its rim, about the same size as a plane. And it was also low to the ground, had 2 lights in the middle, and she said that the object was such a dark color that it looked darker than the night, which is a really interesting statement to make because I think, Antonio Urzi in Italy has some video of some UFOs, and one of them in particular looks exactly like the way this witness here is describing the bottom of that craft looking darker than the night. So some really cool stuff going down in Poland. If you go to Open Minds, you can see some sketches of the craft and some more detail there on that. Do you guys drink milk? Most people do. Cream, cheese, whatever, right? Unless you're lactose or vegan or something. CBC is saying that human-like milk is being made by genetically modified cows. Now, future is infant formula replacement uncertain due to fears over transgenic foods. So I don't think I have to go into that, but genetically modified cows are now making milk in... This is horrible, to replace human breast milk in the case where mothers can't produce it themselves. Excuse me, I got a bit of a cold here. It's kind of embarrassing. And I got no tissue. But yeah, like genetically modified cows. Do we need any more of this synthetic stuff? I almost cursed because this stuff makes me angry. These corporations are always trying to corner the market on everything, and food specifically seems to be the last great frontier. And if you heard last episode with Michael Murphy out in Los Angeles and the whole chemtrail conspiracy, because it is a conspiracy, because it's happening, and it's destroying ecosystems globally, that's another reference to the global food market cornering. So this is scary. When you start integrating these synthetic strains into the human condition like we've been doing for the last 100 years, hardcore, human DNA begins to change and in a lot of cases degrade. So, you know, we're bad enough already. We're already genetic deteriorations. We're already DNA freaks because of all the crap we've been putting into our bodies, specifically for the last 5 decades, 6 decades. But now we got to continue this cycle. Like, I don't know. In my opinion, we're on a downward spiral, and this stuff has got to stop. So go to CBC and check that out. Do a search for human-like milk made by GM cows. It's terrifying. Man. Wow. Yeah. And connected to that same story is interest to see if U.S. regulatory authorities approve genetically modified salmon for human consumption. Fake fish and fake milk. I guess the other opposite side of the coin could be that the powers that be quite possibly know something that we don't. And they're trying to create an artificial earth. Really, you know? Artificial fish, synthetic cows, synthetic milk, synthetic seeds, and all this crap because maybe they know that our ecosystem will collapse. That's a terrifying thought, but think about the seed bank, the virtual Noah's Ark in Europe that's been hoarding all these seeds and collecting all the organic seeds that the earth has ever provided. That's terrifying. I mean, it's very important to catalog all the species of earth, yes. But is there an ulterior motive? That's what this show is about, questioning those things. NASA telescopes join forces to observe unprecedented explosion from Popular Mechanics. You can go online and check that out. It says here that NASA's Swift Hubble Space Telescope and Chandra X-ray Observatory have teamed up to study one of the most puzzling cosmic blasts yet observed. More than a week later, high-energy radiation continues to brighten and fade from its location. Astronomers say they've never seen anything this bright, long-lasting and variable before. Usually gamma-ray bursts mark the destruction of a massive star, but flaring emission from these events never lasts more than a few hours. Although research is ongoing, astronomers say that the unusual blasts likely arose when a star wandered too close to its galaxy's central black hole. The intense tidal forces tore the star apart, and the infalling gas continues to stream toward the hole. According to this model, the spinning black hole formed an outflowing jet along its rotational axis. A powerful blast of X and gamma rays is seen if this jet is pointed in our direction. So on March 28th, Swift's Burst Alert Telescope discovered the source in the constellation Draco when it erupted with the first in a series of powerful X-ray blasts. The satellite determined a position for the explosion, now cataloged as gamma ray burst 1103-28A, and informed astronomers worldwide. I'd love to be the guy who named these things, like stars and blasts and things like that. What do you want to call it? 1132-28A. Like, come on. Can you be more creative? I guess it's a time thing. They're just doing it to get it cataloged and move on. But, geez, it's so silly. Silly names for stuff. So go to Popular Mechanics to read more about that, because the story goes on. And it's really cool that they're actually teaming up all these telescopes. The implications of like such powerful vision into the future, or the past, I should say, because when you look farther into space, you're looking back into past, because light takes time to travel. Essentially, you're time traveling. But for those telescopes to join forces to give us a better view on the universe, that's very exciting stuff. I wanted to mention this in the beginning. I've got a few stories here from UFOcasebook.com, and this is a really cool site. The only problem I have with UFOcasebook.com is that I haven't seen like an About Us section to talk about what UFO Casebook is all about, what their mission statement is, who is contributing. I haven't seen any of that stuff. You got to click on each individual article to kind of see, where it's come from. But other than that, it's a cool source for like new and breaking UFO sightings. And I got a few of them here. There's a bright white light, and we're going to stick to Canadian stories for a few of these, or a couple, and then jump around a little bit because there's some other cool ones. But UFOcasebook.com, a bright white light appeared to come from flashing ground object at London, Ontario. Now, these are only short, so I'll just read these to you because they're cool. This is Canadian UFO stuff. Now, this was posted April 2nd, 2011. Says here, April 2nd, yeah, last night, this is an account from the witness, of course. Last night, as I was driving down Highbury around 1 a.m., I noticed a bright white light. Now, it was so bright, I almost pulled over thinking it was a police officer. I managed to pull over and get out just as the light was dimming. It seemed to be coming from some flashing object on the ground. It almost looked like a giant road flare, except it was a white flame instead of orange. Anyway, nobody believes me, and I'm really curious to see what it could have been. I'm in London, Ontario, Canada. I was driving south on Highbury Avenue approximately 1 a.m. on my way to the White Oak suburbs. I noticed the light just after crossing Hamilton Avenue while on Highbury. The light was coming from the northeast of where I was, so I really had to wrap my head around to see what was happening. I was crossing into both lanes just to see. I could almost make out the source of the light, but had to keep looking forward as not to crash. I pulled off the commissioner's exit and headed east to pull over. I pulled over onto a dead-end street, not sure of the name, to get a better view, but lost vision of what I thought was the source, and the sky began to dim. I've been asking friends if they saw anything, but at 1 a.m. they were probably all asleep, and I'm racking my brain to try and figure it out. So There's a story from London, Ontario.